Hey guys, it's Father JP. I want to talk to you guys again, this time about St. Therese of Lisieux. The cool thing about being in St. Teresa Catholic Church is that I get to brush up on who in the world is St. Therese of Lisieux. So this might be old news for y'all, but stay tuned, see if you learn something new. What I want to talk to you guys about today is actually how to be saints in daily life. And St. Therese of Lisieux is the champ of daily holiness. She comes across sometimes as super soft or maybe a little emotional or, oh my gosh, she hits like a truck. So if we take her seriously, she can really change our lives. And she's a very strong and gentle, but very strong and powerful saint for daily holiness. And it's crazy to think about that too, because she was a cloistered nun. But she's made the patron saint of missionaries, among other things. So if she can be cloistered, never leaving her community of nuns, and be the patron saint of missionaries, she's got something to teach us about holiness in daily life. So, what I want to share with you guys about today is something that she coined. It's called her little way. In other words, how to be a saint where you are, when you are. And it's nothing new, it's just that she put basically the gospel, to be quite honest, she put the gospel in a practical and easy to remember formula so that she could be holy, her sisters could be holy, you and I can be holy too. So it goes like this. It's a cycle of 3 steps, and anywhere you find yourself along that cycle, you just move to the next step. And so step 1 of Therese of Lisieux's little way is recognize my littleness. And so what does that mean? So for Therese, it's not about like height, of course. She's recognized my littleness. That's okay. What are the things that are difficult right now? You know, maybe, gosh, kids were screaming till 3 in the morning. I had to take care of someone who was sick, so I am working off of 0 sleep and I still got to show up to work. That's littleness, or man, just by my nature, I'm not a patient guy, okay, that's littleness. Or gosh, Lord, it's been a rough 2-3 weeks. I am carrying a lot of sin. That's littleness, or it could be things out of our control, like for example, oh my gosh, something's going on in our community, some changes in our state or our nation that are making it a lot more difficult for me to live my faith. That's littleness. So step 1 is simply to recognize your littleness. Name it, acknowledge its existence. Not to live in denial, in other words. What's the context? Where is God calling you to be a saint is hugely important to say yes to him. Recognize my littleness. Okay, from there, we move to step 2, which is trust in God's mercy. And this is more than simply, okay, God's got it, all will be well. Like, no, this is a conscious, willed abandonment to the loving arms of the one who loves us the most. That's crazy. It's a choice to live in trust as opposed to fear. It's a conscious decision to say, you know what, because God is with me, it's going to be okay, even if I don't understand how. Therese, she was definitely a woman of courage. So she lived in some unstable times, but she said step 2 after you recognize your littleness is to consciously abandon yourself to God's love for you. Trust in God's mercy. So because God's with me, he's going to provide the grace I need to love. It might not look pretty. It might actually look like the cross. Abandoned, betrayed, strung up naked before the world, a failure in everyone's eyes, yet beloved for the salvation of the world, sacrificed himself. So it might look like that. It might look like the wedding feast at Cana. Lots of joy and celebration and way too much wine. But regardless, trust in God's mercy. With God, there's always the grace we need to love, to be patient, to be kind, to listen even though we're tired, to take care of someone who's sick, to be gentle with ourselves. Whatever the situation calls for, when we trust in the Lord's mercy, it's an acknowledgement that God is always a providential Father, that he gives us exactly what we need for our good and the good of the world. Okay, step 3, recognize your littleness, trust in God's mercy, keep trying. Or in other words, persevere. The big Teresa, after which Therese of Lisieux was named, this is Theresa of Avila, has this kind of curious expression that she writes in Spanish. She calls it a determined determination. In other words, you can't be a saint just by accident. You got to want it, and you got to really, really want it. You got to put that nose to the grindstone and go. So little Therese kind of captures that in this. Keep trying. Okay, so you fall face down in the mud. Get up. Take another step. And you trip and fall. Get up, you know. The fight's not over. The race isn't over until we stay down. You know, and even there, the Lord is always extending a hand towards us. You know, just think of St. Peter, who had the courage to walk out on the water, the stormy sea, drowns, reaches out the hand of the Lord, immediately is there for him. So the thing about Therese that makes her so courageous is that when she was really little, she died when she was 24, so she was a young woman, you know, all of her earthly life. But when she was really little, she made this promise to herself and to the Lord, never to give in to discouragement. Oh my gosh, never to give in to discouragement. See, this isn't living in naivety. She had it tough, really tough, but to give in to discouragement is to doubt the Lord's love for me and his providence in my life. In other words, for Therese to move through this cycle, it's like, no, I will not be discouraged because I'm going to show up. I'm going to give my all to the one who always gives me his all. So she was a woman of great faith, a woman of courage. And so that's her little way. So again, it's recognize my littleness, trust in God's mercy, and keep trying. So Therese would advise us if some crisis is happening, or gosh, if you just want to start your day with this, where are you in that cycle? What's the next step that needs to happen? Perhaps you're very aware of your littleness, and you've already surrendered to the Lord and asked for his grace. All right, keep trying. What's the next practical step? Maybe you've made a practical step and boom, fallen flat on your face. Acknowledge that. Recognize your littleness. And then where is God in that? That's trusting in his mercy, if you understand. So her little way is a beautiful and easy to remember way to transform boring, ordinary, drudgery, whatever of life into a beautiful, intentional, lived sacrifice, an adventure that makes us saints. So St. Therese, pray for us.